along to episode 20 of the Actors Toolkit podcast in association with the Audere Academy. Today we are joined by the lovely Amanda Elizabeth Rischel, who is an actress who is actually a member of the Academy and is going to be running some courses with us. So we thought it would be a great chance to get her on and explain a little bit about some of the courses that we have coming up. So Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We're delighted to have you. So the first question that we always ask everybody on the podcast, who is Amanda Elizabeth Rischel?
I am an actor and a voice actor who trained at East 15 in London, and now I teach professional preparation at East 15 as well as just being an actor. And I think one of the reasons I ended up doing that is because I also have a background in law prior to training as an actor. So I think it was always inevitable maybe that I'd end up approaching my acting career in a similar way as opposed to how I was doing things as a lawyer, kind of trying to find structure and bringing that into the creative space where typically there isn't as much. So that allowed me to better navigate the uncertainty of the industry. And that's coincidentally kind of what I'm trying to now teach other people how to do.
Yeah, and it's something we always talk about on the podcast about how drama school doesn't prepare you for the business side of show business. They teach you how to act, but they don't teach you how to do all the tax returns and the writing to agents and formatting your spotlight profile and stuff. So does your course kind of touch on aspects of that?
Yeah, I would say so. The training that I'm offering through Audere Academy is focused on mindset primarily, because I think that's what comes first and foremost, really. There's a lot of things you can learn, I suppose, by trial and error, such as how do you write a really good email? But I think fundamentally, whether or not you're going to feel successful and enjoy being an actor comes down to your mindset, because especially, I suppose, for creatives, anyone who's self-employed, but people in the creative industry especially, there are so many challenges that are unique to that industry. The fact that we have so little job security, we can never plan ahead for anything because jobs come with no warning. We don't have any structure or routine other than what we create for ourselves. So it's very easy to feel stuck or lost or overwhelmed by that, or not really knowing where to put your focus. And mindset is one of the few things that are actually within our control. I know that's easier said than done, but when you work at it over time, even just having a basic awareness of your own mindset, how do you see the world around you and how do you approach things in your acting career and in your life in general, can be so beneficial, because it's not about glossing over the challenging things. It's about just being aware that they're there and then saying, okay, what's the best thing I can do right now to deal with that? You can't always change things, but you can usually mitigate them or deal with them in some way. And it's just about having that belief that things can change. Maybe you don't know how, but if you believe that you can affect things around you, then you can start working towards making the changes you want to see. And that is a much more empowering place to be in.
Yeah, yeah, okay, right. Let's go back to the very, very start. Okay. So I'm an actor. Looking on social media these days, you see words like mindset, growth, goal setting, all these kind of things thrown around. Obviously, you're teaching a lot of people at drama school. So do you want to kind of just give us a basic rounding of what mindset is? Because obviously the course is called Mindset for Actors, but how do you define mindset?
To me, mindset is the attitude with which you are approaching everything in your life. So it's how you react to the things around you. And let's say, for instance, you're an actor. Well, you could look at the industry and you could say, well, it's really hard. There's a lot of actors. There's very little work. I don't have any connections. I'm not famous. It's impossible. That could be your mindset. You could just say, I can't do anything. It's too hard. I might as not even try. Or you could say, okay, yes, it's challenging. There are definite obstacles, but some people succeed. So why couldn't I do that? Maybe it's about finding out, well, what are the things I can affect? What can I actually have an impact on? And if I put my focus there and make sure that the things I'm trying to change will take me in the direction I actually want to go, well, then that's a little bit more actionable. That's a little bit more helpful than just saying to yourself, well, there's nothing I can do, so I might as well not try. This way you can actually feel like you're doing something, and you're not just doing anything, you're doing something that is specifically going to get you closer to where you want to be. So not only does it feel like you have more control over your life and your career, but it also just keeps you busy and it keeps you from waiting.
So it's quite tied in with goal setting as well then.
I think it is, but it's not so, I suppose, linked that you couldn't talk about mindset without goal setting. I think they're intrinsically linked, but your mindset is even just how do you react to you get a self-tape in, but you're very busy that day. So it's a bit stressful. It's not ideal timing. Well, you could say, oh, now it's going to be unenjoyable because this is bad timing for me. I wasn't really prepared. I'm going to do badly because I won't have enough time and I won't get the job. That's a way you could respond to getting that self-tape in an inconvenient time. But if you can try and really challenge yourself to say, okay, it's not the best timing, but how could I make it work to the best of my ability with the time I have? And how could I find the most fun in it? Then you're probably going to have not only just a better experience actually doing the tape, but the likelihood of that being received well is going to be greater, because if you can really just try and enjoy it, even if it's not ideal, because it's rarely ideal, even in those circumstances, if you can just do your best and be kind enough to yourself to say, well, I only had 4 hours or 30 minutes or whatever you had. So I did my best and no one can expect more. And you try as best you can to just find whatever fun you can. It's not only going to be a better time, but it's also going to probably give you a better result. And I think that's the trick. People think mindset is something very esoteric or something really vague, something very new agey. I think mindset really is just choosing to believe that you can affect change, and also just trying to have the most fun and make things the most enjoyable they can be, even if they're not always great.
Yeah, okay, and it makes it a lot easier if you're enjoying the process. Now, having developed the course with you, obviously, I'm aware of things you talk about called pillars. How would you explain what the pillars are?
Yeah. So the pillars, or pillars of life, as I kind of call them, it's just a concept or a tool that I use to explain to people how you could look at your life sort of from a top-down perspective and divide it into categories. Now, I use the phrase pillars because I think it's an easy visual to imagine that you have certain areas of life or pillars of your life that are all supporting you in having the freedom and the energy to do what you really want to do. In our case, acting. So if all of these pillars are fairly stable, they're supporting you and you've got a lot of time and energy to focus on the things you want to be doing. If all of these pillars are unstable, well, that means your attention is going to be drawn to these other places, and it will just mean you have less resources to focus on the acting, which is perfectly normal. But if you ask an actor, how are you, how's it going, 9 times out of 10 they're just going to be talking about the acting. They'll either say, oh, it's great, I'm doing a lot of work, or they'll say it's terrible because I'm not getting any work. But the thing is, the actor who's working a lot could have all sorts of other things going on in their life that objectively isn't good. Maybe they have health issues, or they're breaking up with a partner, or they're homeless. There could be a lot of things going on. And the person who's not working could still have objectively other good things going for them. Maybe they have a great support system, or they have a day job that they really enjoy. So by trying to look at it, not just acting as your entire life, but saying, well, how is my home situation? How are my relationships to other people, to myself, to the industry? Looking at your life in many areas can help people identify that there are other things that aren't directly related to acting, but that are still really important and can directly affect how much time and energy and resources you have available for focusing on acting. So really, the way I kind of propose to people to look at it is, well, most of us, we have at least these following 5 pillars. We have home, where we live. We have our finances, the money we have available. We have our health, especially relevant for actors. We have relationships, and we have ambition. Ambition isn't necessarily the same as career, but for actors, typically it is. But someone could be ambitious about just being a really good parent, or they have a hobby that they enjoy. So for this purpose, let's just say that our ambition is acting. We want to put all the focus on the acting and the ambition. But if we neglect everything around that, we're probably going to end up not getting the results we want, because we're focusing so much on one pillar that even if that's going okay, everything else has sort of wobbled in the background. And I really want to encourage people to feel that it's okay to also spend time and energy on dealing with other areas of your life, even if it's not directly acting related, because it will all add up to you being in the best position to be the actor you want to be.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And you see so many actors focusing so much on the acting that they do forget about the other parts of our life. But one thing that I get a lot of questions, a lot of my actors ask me this: what kind of things can actors be doing outside of acting in order to help their career get further away? Because I think it's so easy to go, right, well, I want to be an actor, so I need to do this training, I need to get to know this casting director, I need to go to this event. But what other things just in general life can actors be doing?
So I think there's no easy answer to that question, unfortunately, because one of the things I'm a big advocate for is saying there is no right path, because there's no guarantee that anything you do as an actor is going to lead you to any guaranteed result. So part of the question is to really understand yourself and what kind of actor you want to be, not just in terms of what areas of acting are you interested in working within, but understanding yourself as a person. What is it that motivates you? Why do you want to be an actor? And what does success as an actor look like for you? Because for some people, it's about a certain type of work, or a certain type of profile, or making a certain amount of money. There's no right answer to that. So, first of all, I would say try to really get clear on why you want to be an actor. What is it about it that appeals to you? And what specifically would the dream life as an actor look like to you? Because then you can start thinking about, well, where are you now and where is that? And how could you, what would need to change for you to get from A to B? Because that will give you some of the clues as to, well, what could I be doing with that time when I'm not performing? I think that's also an important thing to understand is a lot of time actors think that acting is performing, and it's part of it, certainly, but nobody performs all the time. 98% of actors don't make a living off acting, right? And even the 2% that do, they don't work 100% of the time. So if we equate performing with being an actor, then we're going to be really disappointed because we'll feel like we're failing all the time. So if we step one say, okay, there's performing as part of being an actor, absolutely. And we want to increase the amount of time that we are performing, sure. But there's so much around that. Like you were talking about training. Sure, training is important, and working on certain skills might be relevant if there's certain work that you want to do that would require you to have those skills. But depending on what your specific goals as an actor or for your acting career is, it could also be things like there could be so many gaps in your knowledge, I suppose, about being a working actor. Maybe you've never done a tax return. That could be a relevant place for you to start. Or maybe you find that you are very shy and you find networking really uncomfortable. I think it's about identifying what could help you get closer to where you want to go. And it's not always training or skills. It could also just be getting into really good shape. If you know you want to do physically demanding work that maybe you don't quite feel like you'd be prepared to do today, maybe it's uh, keeping skills that you already have fresh. Maybe it's just creating new material to showcase the skills you already have. And I think this might be considered radical by some, but one thing you could do that I think is really important that most of us don't prioritize is to have fun. It kind of comes back to acting is supposed to be fun. Um, that's something a casting director once said to me, and it's really stuck with me. It's supposed to be fun. Because I think we all agree it is supposed to be fun. But the reason she phrased it that way is because to a lot of us, it stops being fun because it just becomes too stressful. It becomes overwhelming. We put so much pressure on ourselves. And actually, as an actor, there are so many reasons that people will tell you that you should give up. It's too hard. There's not enough money. There's job insecurity. It's too saturated. Give up. But I think as an actor, if we can actually just enjoy our lives, even if we're not working as much as we want, or even if we've not gotten the work we want yet, if we can find a way to organize our lives that we are enjoying our daily lives, our daily routines, where we're living, the people we're spending time with, and then we are also at the same time pursuing work that we really want to do and that we feel motivated by, that we feel like has merit, then we're actually just going to enjoy ourselves more. And that will lead to us performing better, because when we're not held back by this fear of not doing well enough, but we trust that we are going to succeed. It's just a matter of how and when, but we'll figure those details out later. If we just try and see if we can go about it and actually just have as much fun as we can every day, even if the self-tapes come in with 1 hour's notice or something, if we can have fun, we're going to be relaxed, we're going to be playful, and people will respond well to that. They will like what we do, and we will be the people they want to interact with. So we create this positive, self-fulfilling prophecy rather than a negative one where we keep succeeding because we believe that we will, even if we don't know how we're going to do it. If we trust that we will, we can get there. So I think the answer to the question, what can actors be doing outside of performing? You can have fun and you can work on your mindset. And I know I'm making it sound like it's that simple. I know it's not simple. It takes a lifetime to work on your mindset. But I really want to challenge everyone listening to try and do that and just see, next time something comes in that stresses you out, whether it's a workshop or a self-tape or an audition, whatever it is, challenge yourself to see how could I make it more fun, and see if even just that changes how it feels doing it.
Yeah, and it's so noticeable as well. You can see when someone's having fun in audition tapes and workshops. You can see, and the people that are enjoying it more tend to get better results. So you're perfectly right. So how does the course structure kind of work? Because obviously you've done this at East 15, but now moving into the Audere Academy, we're changing things up a little bit. How does the course work? What's the kind of structure of it?
So we have made two modules. There are sort of two parts to the mindset course because it's too much to cover in one sitting. I think people kind of need a little breather in between to let it percolate. But there's two halves of it essentially. And the first half is very focused on just pausing wherever you're at, uh, having this sort of grounding top-down view of what is going on in your life, really identifying, the things that are working well, so you can celebrate those successes and wins, but also maybe the things that need your attention. And then once you have that overview of what is actually honestly going on in my life right now, then we can start talking about, well, where do you want to go from here? What direction do you want to take now? And this isn't something you do once. This is something you do regularly, even maybe daily. It's just really good to learn to have the skill set to always go, okay, where am I? Where do I want to go next? Because it's never going to be a straight line. It's going to be pivots and turns, and because new things will always come up and change the plan. So there's no plan that is perfect and will never need any adapting. It will need constant adapting, especially in this industry. But the first module is all about just learning how to navigate that, to say, okay, this just happened. What am I going to do next? And taking those goals that you might have and making them into smaller, actionable steps. So when you have that time where you're not busy performing, you can come back to that and say, okay, that's what I'm going to do next. And then the second half of it builds on that to say, well, okay, if you now know how to set your direction, how do we then become more resilient? How do we stay in this game and keep having fun long enough that we don't grow tired of it and leave in a rage? And that's more about finding structure that isn't typically present in acting. It's maybe setting routines for yourself or schedules. It's about prioritizing your time, but it's also finding work-life balance and looking at self-care, what that might look like for the individual person, because I think actors more so than other people tend to feel like we're never doing enough because there is no guaranteed path. So we feel like we have to do everything all the time and we can never take breaks. And so we burn out. So part two is very much about the longevity of being an actor and finding the balance between being proactive, but not burning out. And most importantly, having fun in the process.
And when you started the course, obviously you started doing it with students at East 15, but the way that we're doing it, it's obviously accessible to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say this is, mindset is for everyone. And I think we've made it in a way where it's especially, I think, helpful to anyone who is either a graduate or someone who's new to the industry or in the first few years of the industry, or who just doesn't have a background where mindset training or goal setting has been very prominent. So even if you are someone who is a few years into your career or you're very experienced, if that's never something that you've had any training in or any experience in, and you find that you struggle a little bit with setting those goals or setting that direction or dealing with the challenges that come up for you, then it could still be really helpful. I think it's up to the individual to kind of decide whether they feel like they have enough experience that they'd want to move straight to level two. For some people, they might say, well, I'm really good at goal setting. I feel like I have that covered, but I'm finding it hard to then stay on track. Well, then maybe you want to start with level two. But I would invite anyone who feels like this is something that they would like more tools for or guidance on how to to go about, or even just exercises so that you can do this at home, because that's the idea. I'm trying to empower people to make these choices for themselves and give them exercises that mean that at any given point when something comes up for them, they would know how to stop, look at that, address it, and then decide what they were going to do next from there on.
Yeah, I think you might have a bit more insight into it than I do. But obviously, we were talking about drama schools there and how the lack of, preparation for the industry, or the lack of business preparation. What do you think drama schools can do more of? I mean, it's 20 years now since I graduated, but at the time we had literally a talk from Spotlight about what Spotlight was, and that was it. That was back when it was a casting book rather than a website. But they just told us what it was, and then that was all the training we had for being let out into the industry. And as an agent myself, obviously, we notice a lot of graduates, especially, who don't know the basics of self-taping, or how to write to an agent, or what should I do on my Spotlight profile. And what more do you think drama schools should be doing? And obviously you're working with East 15, and they've obviously targeted this by getting you in to do their mindset courses. But where are the other drama schools kind of lagging behind?
So, full disclosure, I don't know every program at every drama school, of course, so I couldn't say specifically what's going on where. But I think, if anything, I think maybe part of the issue has been that for a long time, uh, traditional drama training has focused a lot on performance aspects, to the point where maybe there was no focus on anything else. And I think that made a lot of sense maybe a while back, when everyone was going to go into rep theatre and sort of have work and training on the job from the get-go. But now that the industry has changed, and that's not how the majority of us, if anyone really, gets into being a working actor now, I think there's definitely been a period of time where maybe the training offered at drama schools hasn't updated or modernized fast enough to really reflect those changes. And I think that's maybe why, as you said, maybe there wasn't really any preparation for the business aspects of being an actor, and bridging that gap between training to be a performer, but then being in the situation where you've now left drama school, but you have no context. Maybe you don't even have representation. And how do you then get those jobs? And more importantly, when you're not getting the jobs, how do you deal with that so that you don't let that disappointment discourage you from keep going? So I think it's positive that I'm seeing more drama schools having focus on this, and realizing the value of, I suppose, marrying the training that they're giving people in performance technique with also some training or understanding of the practicalities of being a working actor. And I noticed that, I think, was it David Harewood who was talking about how at RADA he's hoping to implement more things like this. I feel like I saw him talking about maybe, teaching people how to do their taxes. And I'm all for that, because that's really why I started doing this, was because I thought, well, we have these brilliant performers who come out and they're ready to perform, but nobody's told them that they might not get to perform immediately or as often as they want. And I think it's not about, giving people the impression that they're not going to work, that they're not going to succeed. It's rather saying, this is what you do when you're not performing, and this is what you do when you're performing. So rather than saying there's success and there's failure, there's just two sides to being an actor. And you need to know what you're doing in both cases, not just when you're performing at the national, because if you've made it that far, you're doing fine. We need a little bit more focus, I think, on the other aspects. But it seems like there are initiatives now putting focus on that. And we have things like the Audere Academy, which I think is really positive as well, because not everyone goes through traditional drama training. So I don't think it should be a requirement. I think drama schools should definitely help bridge that gap. But because not everyone goes there should be other avenues as well. So I think it's really positive that Audere Academy is also focusing on these aspects, because regardless of how you come into acting, I think you can benefit from having just this awareness of, how am I supposed to go about it? And as you say, how do I write to someone? How do I format an invoice? It's these things that no one tells you traditionally, and you kind of have to figure it out. Maybe you're lucky that you know someone who's further ahead in their career who can show you, but I think it would be really nice if we could get to a point where it was a logical part of getting any kind of drama training, that you also get trained in the more business and admin related aspects. So I'm hoping that there's going to be more of a focus on it. I feel like there is post-COVID, simply because that was such an awakening, I think, for all of us. You had, my heart goes out to anyone who was in training at that point, because they were doing their showcases as Zoom performances, which isn't ideal, but it just shows how the industry has changed. And as you say, learning how to self-tape is crucial now, because most of us won't get in the room as the first round. We will be doing self-tapes hundreds of times before we maybe get in the room. So I think it's really positive that there is more of a focus on the fact that that hasn't been covered sufficiently previously. And I feel like a lot of people are making changes towards that.
Yeah, which ties us into our course, of course, which is going to be mostly on Zoom. We might do some in-person ones as well down the line, but mostly Zoom calls that people can book onto through the website. So we will be announcing more about that very, very soon. So keep an eye on our socials. We ask the same final question to everybody that comes on the podcast. If you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be and why? Maybe touching on what we just talked about. Maybe that would be what you would change.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is if anything, I would want to change the collective mindset. The stories we tell ourselves around what does it mean to be an actor. I would like to do away with this myth that, again, actors are these disempowered people who sit and wait and hope that someone calls them. I don't think that's how it is at all. I think it can feel that way. It can feel like we have no control, but there are more things we can actually affect than we might realize. And I think if we can start, collectively as actors to realize, well, we are integral. And maybe we can't just go out and pick and choose the work we want, but we can pick and choose our attitudes. We can pick and choose which areas of work we're pursuing, what skills we're learning, how we're spending our time, how we interact with people, and again, how much fun we're having. We can affect those things. So I think if we could get that mindset revolution of changing our perspective from success as an actor has to look a certain way. Because I think one of the things that actors find so demotivating is when people ask them, oh, are you an actor? What have you been in? And that sort of implies that there's a standard for whether or not you are a real actor. I would love for people to realize that there is no right way to be an actor. You are an actor whether or not you went to drama school. You are an actor whether or not you are currently performing. You're an actor whether or not this person you just met at a party rates the thing that you have worked on most recently. None of this defines your skill or your worth. So the only thing that really matters is that you feel like you are doing something worthwhile. You are enjoying yourself, and you feel like the work you do is significant. So if we can, I think, change that mindset of this is what being an actor is to what does it mean to me? What would it look like to me ideally? And again, just be, I suppose, radical enough to have fun despite all the things that might be against us and all the challenges we're facing, and just say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to enjoy my day regardless. And every day that maybe you don't have a self-tape, well, that's a day where you can say, oh, brilliant, I can have a line, and then I'm going to go work on whatever skill, or I'm going to read a book, or, see it as always a positive. Either I'm performing and that's brilliant, or I'm doing something else that I'm enjoying and that will bring me closer to where I want to be. Then it's a win-win either way.
Fantastic. Great answer. Love it. Right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Amanda, for joining us. It's been great. If anyone wants to check out our course, you can find it on the audereacademy.com. We're going to be launching that very, very soon. And yeah, get yourselves booked on, sort that mindset, and we will hopefully see you there. So thanks very much for joining us, Amanda. We'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you.